Hello, John. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so briefly tell us who is John?
You already said I'm John. My name is Jean-Marie Wizeyimana, and I was born in Rwanda, so I'm a Rwandese.
Oh, wonderful. So anyway, we're gonna know a little bit more about John as you go through this interview.
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, today we're here to talk about the Rwandan Genocide, and I understand you're a survivor of that horrific incident that happened in Rwanda. So we want to hear just a little bit more detail as to how it happened, how you happen to be here. Because a lot of people passed away, but you made it, so that's what we're here for. So
yeah, pretty much a question of surviving. I can't say how did it happen, but I can say yes, it happened. God did it.
Wow.
I didn't do anything to have it happen, but God has led myself and my family and went through many paths, bush path, and we found ourselves in a refugee camp. So that's how we survived. So I can't say, oh, I did 1 and 2, 3, 4 to survive. No, only God led us through the safe path until we get to the safety.
I do understand. I believe that's true. There is, from every story we can get from the survival of people from Rwanda, there is some element of God in it, because it was miracles how a few people survived. So, but what you're going to do is, I want us to talk a little bit back. I will take you a little bit back, a little bit.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about how life used to be in Rwanda before genocide? I understand you were born in Rwanda.
Yes.
And, just before, how was life for like growing up as a child in Rwanda?
Yes, growing as a child in Rwanda, it was fun because I wasn't living in the city life. I was living somewhere in the countryside. So yeah, I could eat just fresh food from our farms, and I could see my parents growing things in the farm. So it was so fun to see, and sometimes they were like giving us small how to help with the farming and so on. So yeah, it was a good life. And looking the years that lead to genocide, the harvest was so nice, was really good. For example, I remember my mom going to harvest some sweet potato, and it was like this huge sweet potato during that year. Then we were like, wow, this is amazing. It hasn't like been harvested.
Wow.
Even before that.
Like that?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Maybe was that a sign that something was gonna happen?
I don't know. Because seeing that kind of harvest, we thought, oh my goodness, the life is going to change and be better. But eventually then the genocide began. People started like building the what can I say, the enmity in their minds. They started like hunting each other.
So just before we get to the hunting of each other, I wanted to know, because you said when you're growing up, and I grew up in Africa myself, I've worked in the farms, and I know how beautiful it can be in Africa, with away from all these complicated stuff that we have in the Western world. But I want to ask, that time you're growing up, and maybe moments before genocide came, like days or weeks before genocide came, was there some differences to your lifestyle just before the genocide came?
Before the genocide came, there was no different, because it came like from nowhere. Because I forgot to tell you, I was born in 1985, so genocide happened in 1994. So that means I was like 9 years old when I saw all those things happening. Yeah. So I didn't know exactly where this idea of killing each other, where it came from. I didn't know exactly where these people were getting, what triggered them to start killing their friends.
So in other words, you don't have a collection of Like, I remember on this particular day, I saw the soldiers coming, we started running. You don't have a collection of the exact time where things changed.
Before the genocide happened, actually, there were like a group of people who will make rumors around the village, saying, "Oh, look, the army is somewhere closer, so we need to like go and hide." So all the population were together to go and gather near the leader's office or near the positions for the army, so that to make sure that they are somewhere they will be safe if the opposition army for those days, if it comes to attack the country. So there were like rumors here and there that there is a war coming.
So this rumor wasn't rumor that there is going to be genocide. It was a rumor like there's a war coming.
Yes.
So that means at that moment, both Tutsis and Hutus, should I say, were not aware that it was going to be a genocide. They were assuming there was going to be a war.
No, those who were creating rumors, they are the ones who committed the genocide. Because even when they were committing genocide, they thought they are finishing the enemies who are about to attack the country. That's the mentality they had, I think.
Oh, so even when they were sending those rumors, that means they already knew. But they had some kind of an idea.
Yes.
Okay, but for you, you belong to the Tutsi tribe.
That's correct.
You did not have an idea.
Yeah, I didn't have idea because again I was young, Christian, so we didn't like into politics to know much about what is being prepared. But those who are into politics, those who are in deep in following their ethnicities, they were like knowing exactly what is happening, especially the Hutu side. They knew what they are going to do. Oh. But the Tutsis didn't know, because imagine if you knew that you're going to be killed, will you stay? So that's why the Tutsi didn't know what was being prepared. That's how many of them were killed during the 1994 genocide. So the Hutu were doing everything like secret for them. They collected all those weapons before Tutsi ethnic noticed anything.
Yeah, I can almost agree with you that from what you're saying, there was some kind of collusion between within the Hutu community. They had some kind of an idea maybe of what was going to happen, but sadly, so much life was lost. I think from statistics, about 75% of the Tutsi population was eliminated, which is really sad. Meaning you are part of the 25% that survived the genocide. So now, tell us your escape. Like, genocide started. Do you escape when already things were running, people were getting killed, or there was a moment where you squeezed your way out? How did you find your way out?
Yeah, pretty much looking the hunting of Tutsi, it was surged during the day. Like the big hunting was happening during the day, because I could see people walking around with machetes. But again, since we were like new in that location, so they couldn't like locate us on which ethnic do we belong at. But we knew exactly who we are. So they even had, I remember Dad explaining how they had arguments on what they should do to us, but for themselves, God confused them because they didn't know who we are exactly. So that's how they ended up leaving us alone. But however, they continued to plan, and we could hear those plans coming. That's why one day we decided to like take off and go during the night. Around 9 o'clock, we left our home. Till today, we haven't gone back to live there. So we are refugees from that time till now.
Wow. Yeah. So now you move during the night. Where to now? Where did you go?
Pretty much we lived in a place called Bugesera. That's one of the province in Rwanda. So we moved from there, heading towards Burundi, because my dad used to do some businesses of buying things from farm, like crossing borders, selling those things. So he knew the ways to go to from Bugesera to Burundi. So we went through the bush, through the sorghum plantations. Those days there were like so many of them. They were like tall as well. So we could go through the bushes, through the sorghum plantations, and could like check here and there before I crossed the road to see that no one is watching us. Pretty much we started our journey, as I said, around 9 p.m. So we walked. I remember I was carrying a basin, and inside the basin there were some food that we would be eating. So we walked all day long. So we started 9, and the next day started the morning started. We kept on walking between the bushes until the sun sets again. Before we weren't arrived at Burundi as yet, so we had to sleep somewhere in the bush. Then the next day, the second day, that's when we continued our journey and reached somewhere near Kirundo, somewhere near Busoni, somewhere in Burundi. That's where our first refuge was.
So, how old were you around that time?
9 years old. Because I told you I was born in 1985. So in 1994,
so this whole journey,
it
sounds like it was like a 2 days journey, if I got that right.
That's correct.
So you managed to foot 2 days journey as a 9-year-old.
Carrying some things in a basin as well.
Yeah, that must have been really, really hard.
It was a very tiring journey, but who cares? We were fleeing for our lives. No one will get tired when he's fleeing. It's like automatic. You try your best because you're trying to survive. You're trying to run away. So tiredness doesn't mean anything. All you care about is to get to somewhere where it's safe.
So in the journey, when you're in the bushes and all that, you didn't meet any soldiers along the way, and part of the mob that was hunting for
Tutsis. My goodness, we met a group of soldiers, and those soldiers weren't the bad ones.
Okay.
They were like, what did we call them? They were from the Tutsi ethnics. They were like coming from Uganda to like save those Tutsi who were being killed. But however, their journey probably wasn't easy to come as early as possible to get to save those who lost their lives. But however, I thank God the time that they came, they stopped the genocide and sent those who were killing the other ethnics ran away from the different countries. So we met a group of them. They were in the soldiers' cars. I don't know how we call them, and they even stopped and talked to us. So we introduced ourselves, who we are, and what is our journey is all about. Then they let us continue our journey. I could remember recently I visited Rwanda. When was that? It was in June, end of June. So
this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember we drove past exactly the area we crossed and met those soldiers.
Wow.
Yeah.
You still remember all those
places? Yes. I was actually with my dad, so he could point, John, this is the way we passed it through when we were like running away from the war. And that's where we met those soldiers. That's where we went. That's the hill we climbed, and our bike tire exploded. You know what? My dad was, when we were running out of the country, my dad was carrying a big bag of beans in idea that somewhere we'll get somewhere and need something to eat. So, but however, during our journey, the tire passed through the thorns and so on. Then the tire exploded. So when I went there recently, we could see the mountain where we left our bag of beans. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I'm imagining reliving those memories where you meet the soldiers and I don't know, how did that make you feel, like passing through places you passed through before?
Yeah, the memory went back because also it's the same location where we drank water, and after we've drank that water, we noticed that there were the body remains somewhere on top from where that water was coming from.
Wow, what an experience. So you're saying at some point, of course, when you're traveling, I'm understanding that you'll be very thirsty and hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So there were dead bodies at the top of the stream.
Kind of, yeah.
But you were not aware, but obviously
we were not aware. When we reached the water, we were thirsty and we thought, oh my God, praise God, we got the water. But after we've drank it, we continued our journey going towards where the water was flowing from. And
wow. Yeah, these some of the experiences that people that experience genocide they've gone through. I do believe that some of the things John is mentioning is bold enough to come in and talk, but I believe there's more people that are not bold enough as John to speak of their experiences about genocide. So we really appreciate you for sharing these stories with us. Now, you have traveled. You are in Burundi, and you said you went to the refugee camp. What is it called again?
It wasn't like an exact refugee camp. It was like a place where where people like refugees from Rwanda were living, and they weren't getting like a good support from those organizations that support the refugees. So we spent it was like a temporary place to stay at. Then we continued our journey to the refugee camp, which was somewhere in Muyinga, in a place called Mugano.
Is this still in Burundi?
That place is still in Burundi, but I don't think there are refugees there.
But at that time?
Yeah.
So that means the first refugee camp was in Burundi?
Was still in Burundi.
And you still traveled within Burundi to another refugee
yes.
camp?
And even that one wasn't like a permanent refugee place. It was like a transit. From there, they took us from there to a place called Munagano in Nhamba, somewhere in Muyinga. Then from there, we lived there. The life wasn't easy because no refugee was allowed to leave the camp. So the refugees were to remain in the camp, eating what? Just beans, maize from the UNHCR.
Wow.
So they couldn't get, because all they could provide were just beans and maize, or the maize flour, to just imagine eating those kind of things without any vegetables in it. Wow. Or changing of meal. It was really tough. So any refugee that would be caught out of the camp were to be hanged.
Wow.
They were to tie them their arms at the back, hang them somewhere. So it was a really tough life.
Is it hanging for punishment or?
Yeah, punishment for leaving the camp.
So how long will you be hanged up for?
Some people were dying there.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really, really bad
Was
treatment.
this a law that was allowed, or it was just people creating their own?
I think the soldiers, because the camp was like protected by the soldiers. So yeah, it was soldiers' mind. And then once the refugee analyzed the way they were being treated, the whole camp decided to leave at once.
Oh, so this was a decision from the refugee themselves, like
yes.
You and others.
They decided to leave at once by walking, no help for transportation or anything. They decided to leave and they went to Tanzania. But guess what? Me and my family were in tough time because, as you know, my mom has begot twins.
Oh yes.
She was pregnant at that time with those two boys.
Wow.
And the pregnancy was around in her 6 months, something like that. So it was really a hard thing to start a journey with the rest of the refugees. So we had to stay somewhere around. It was someone who gave us just a small plot where we would put our tent and stay there as family. There was no space to grow things for surviving, and we weren't getting any help from UNHCR because it's not a refugee camp. So all the parents had to do were to go and work in someone's farm in order to get the daily meal.
Wow.
So, for example, if they go to work in someone's farm, they were to get just enough portion of cassava to cook for tonight. If you want to eat again tomorrow, that means my parents will have to go and work in the farm again, get the meal for tomorrow.
Wow. That was a tough experience. So how long did you stay in that place now after everybody has left?
Around a year and half or 2 years, something like that, because the reason of staying there is because my mom was pregnant, so we had to wait until she gives birth and have the boys grow. Then that's how we decided that first went to Tanzania and found out where the refugee camp is. And I remember when he came back, he made a plan of taking me and Esther to the camp, leaving the rest of the family behind. So once we are there, once my dad has taken us there, he returned back, and that's how he planned to get the whole family to the refugee camp.
So this refugee camp that you joined in, you went in Tanzania, is the same refugee camp with everybody else? You remember when you said people decided to just go and live? Was it the same refugee camp which you then followed in with Dad?
Yeah, that's pretty much the same refugee camp where everyone else from the camp from Burundi went to. So, however, if I go back to this story of this refugee leaving the camp in Burundi, one of my uncle was living in a refugee camp in Tanzania, and he heard that the refugee camp we're in Burundi is heading towards where he was staying. That was in a refugee camp in Tanzania. So he came thinking he's gonna meet us from that group of people who are coming. Then in his way, he met some Hutu who were in the same refugee camp, because normally these people who were receiving refugees, they didn't understand the situation. They were receiving the Hutu refugees and Tutsi refugees in the same refugee camp. So when my uncle was coming to meet us in the way, thinking we are together with a group of people, of those refugees who were going to Tanzania, he met some angry Hutus, and they killed him there. There were two uncles coming to meet us. One of them, I think you know him, Uncle Kamir.
Oh yes,
was together with his elder brother, and the elder brother got killed. And then Kamir, if you look at him, he has a sign of where he was stabbed during that incident.
Wow. How did he manage to survive?
Who?
Uncle Kamir.
I can say God helped him to survive, because once he got stabbed, apparently when he explained, he thinks he had this power that lifted him and throw him down the pit somewhere. There was a pit or somewhere. Then they thought, oh, since he's got stabbed on his head, they didn't even follow. They believed he's gonna die there. But however, when the news went back to the refugee camp, the security came to search the body. They could find his elder brother's body, but for him it took a while to find him. But however, after all, they found him in a state of unconscious, but the heart was still functioning, so they took him quickly to get treatment, and that's how he survived, I can say.
Wow. So
I wasn't there. That's pretty much the story, how he told us the incident, how the incident happened.
Wow, it's it's such a horrific story to think about. How humans can be so brutal and can be so cruel to each other. But in that same story, there is really sad story. You lost your other uncle, but one of your uncles still survived. It could have been worse. They could have all been killed. But yeah, the stories from genocide. Yeah. Okay, so now, eventually, when did you all eventually moved from that camp where Dad left you to Tanzania? Where did the whole entire family migrated now?